All right, we are now joined via Zoom by political analyst Khanyi Magubane to weigh in on the mounting calls of President Cyril Ramaphosa to step down, among other issues that we will be discussing then this afternoon. A very good afternoon to you, Khanyi. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much, Flo, and to your viewers.
Let's start here, Khanyi. President Cyril Ramaphosa seems to be at quite a critical point, I would say, in his presidency. One can argue that it's the make or break. If he comes out alive from this, then it's fine. And if, otherwise we see the end of it as we did with his predecessor. These growing calls for him to step down, for him to step aside, what do you make of them, and do you see them actually going somewhere? Will you see them increasing, or do you see them at some point actually dying down?
I definitely don't see them dying down, Flo. In fact, this feels like deja vu. In February 2018, the ANC had a press briefing where they announced that they are recalling former President Jacob Zuma amid massive calls for him to step down as a result of corruption charges emanating from the 1990s arms deal. And here we are in 2022, when his successor, Cyril Ramaphosa, finds himself in the very same position. And I don't think that these calls are going to die down. In fact, I think the longer the president takes to step down, the more agitated South Africans are going to get. And if the scenes that played out in Sri Lanka are anything to go by, they may even get violent. We may see South Africans storming national key points like the Union buildings, like the president's house itself, as we've seen Sri Lankans do. And the national call for a national shutdown, I think for me, is the starting point where civil society should actually take a day to put their grievances forward as to why the president needs to step down. The president, I think for me, should see this not just as a personal indictment on him, but more than anything as his last act of honor, because at the end of the day, the longer the president stays in his office, then he's actually sending across a message of impunity to say that I am above the law and I am above any call to let me stand down. I will not stand down. And the longer he does this, the more we may see South Africans actually get violent, and the more critical this will be to our democracy. You must remember that the president is elected into that position by South Africans, and I think that it should be the very South Africans who put him in that position to be the ones to say that we no longer have confidence in you to be the president of this country.
Khanyi, for the most part, it does seem that the president is ignoring what I'll call this hullabaloo around him. I'd like to ask you, where was his first mistake? It does seem that, his sort of him ignoring his Phala Phala farm issues has caused quite a bit of discontent, even among those who would have, ordinarily supported him. Was that the first, I'll call it a mistake, in terms of not addressing that adequately as perhaps he could have? I mean, I remember one of his statements being that we'll let the law take its course. I'm not going to basically address this.
The Phala Phala farm gate issue is something recent. If we have to look at where his first mistake was, Flo, we have to go back a number of years when Mmusi Maimane raised the question in Parliament as to whether the president did take money from the embattled Bosasa. And we know that within no time, Mmusi Maimane was kicked out of active politics. But that was the first time that I think South Africans realized that our president may not be above reproach as we thought that he was. And there have been many other incidences over the years where the president seems to have gotten away with murder, so to speak. And we can only look at the leaked audio that was, brought before Scopa. We can look at the issue of the the bank accounts that were sealed. We can look at the issue of the so-called white monopoly capital and the Stellenbosch mafia that seem to have a hold of the president, or at least as rumors have it. We can look at so many issues, which Phala Phala is just the latest. And I think Phala Phala is just the last final nail in the coffin that really should have sent the president to his own death, so to speak. He should have fallen on his own sword as a way of saying to South Africans, I have failed you and I no longer feel that I am the right president. But what the president did is dismiss it. I remember very clearly he was laughing and taking it very casually at the Limpopo provincial ANC conference, where he said, oh, the money is less than what they say it is. It's nothing. It's just me and my Ankola cattle, you know, throwing water over it, once again, sweeping it under the carpet. Only this time, I think South Africans are tired of sweeping issues under the carpet, Flo. We want issues to be addressed. And if the president has to fall on his sword to retain some last type of honor, that's definitely what he needs to do.
Khanyi, there's an argument that I've seen, and actually quite a lot of being put forward on social media, where people are saying, and I'm not sure if it's even a good argument to begin with, but some people saying, well, if it's not Cyril Ramaphosa, then who? That being the way to sort of justify him staying in his position. I don't know if you've seen that the particular questioning of okay, so who would be next if we don't have President Cyril Ramaphosa? What do you make of that? And maybe we should address that question. Who next? Is it Didi Mabuza? Is he the next person?
Well, you know, if we're talking about succession, then if the president does decide to fall on his sword or is recalled by the ANC, then the deputy will then ascend as far as succession planning is concerned. But we're not so much talking about succession planning in terms of how it's done. We're talking about character. Who is the most likely president to lead us? And that president, I think, for me, for as long as it comes out of the echelons of the ANC, will once again find itself in this particular problem, because the problem in the presidency is not just the individual, but it's also how the party has treated the power that it has been given by the people. And the people of South Africa are not just only tired of President Cyril Ramaphosa, as they have stated so clearly on social media, but they are tired of an ANC rule as per the way that they've done things since 1994. So whether you bring in a Didi, or you bring in a Lindiwe Sisulu, or you bring in any other character from the ANC, as long as they come from the ANC, the same disgruntlement will continue to be there, because people are not just tired of an individual, they are tired of an entire party. And they've shown this in how they've stayed away from the voting polls, as seen in the last local government elections. So we don't even need research or report or statistics to show us this. The apathy that we've seen from South Africans themselves has shown us this. So for me, I think the next possible incumbent for the president may not even come from the ANC. And the question is, which party then is ready to lead this country, if not the ANC? I think that for me is a bigger question, Flo.
Yeah. Let's change focus slightly, Khanyi. Another issue that's been, you know, in the news recently, and still actually staying on the issue of this step aside. We've seen that the former president of the ANC Women's League, Batabile Dlamini, has now been elected or appointed rather to the Women's League's national task team. This despite her having been found guilty of perjury. So we're not even talking about, you know, some sort of a pending case, but, you know, here she is again being put within the ranks of the ANC. I mean, what does this say about, you know, the party itself and its own rules that they've said these are our rules when it comes to the step aside issue, and here we are seeing you know, Batabile Dlamini re-emerging?
You know, Flo, the ANC is no stranger to putting dubious characters in positions of critical power. And we can only just look at the Eastern Cape, where some of the nominees for positions within the provincial leadership were those who were facing murder, fraud, corruption charges. We can look at so many other individuals along with Batabile Dlamini, people like Zandile Gumede as well, who, is facing a big political career still, even though her case is still before court. And so the question for me, Flo, is, with Batabile Dlamini having been indicted, why has she been appointed, to the National Task Team of the Women's League? My question is, how seriously does our ruling party take issues of ethics, issues of morality, issues of appointing leaders that are above reproach? And this is where the critical problem is, Flo, that the ANC sees no problem in putting leaders who have such histories behind them. And the ANC has been the liberation movement of South Africa. They've been a movement that many South Africans have put their trust in for so many years, and this is why South Africans have continued to put them into power. But when we start to see them not care about the actual stature of an individual, how clean is that individual, it starts to become problematic, which means that even if somebody has a corruption, murder, robbery rap, if they want to put them in power, they will. So the question is, what kind of caliber of leadership is the ANC producing? And if Batabile Dlamini is anything to go by at the moment, that caliber is not very high. And this remains very, very worrying for any ordinary South African.
Khanyi, many thanks to you. We always appreciate your insight here on SABC News. Political analyst Khanyi Magubane, thank you.